unexpected to. I had to race back here because we have some construction going on in the office, which was unexpected. And so I just sort of makeshift put this together very quickly. And I have two kittens that are brother and sister who you'll probably see darting around from time to time unless they fall asleep. But they are it's a bit chaotic right now. So try to stay on target.
I love it.
Yeah, it's do you guys have animals? I forgot.
Yeah, I've got a dog who's asleep next to me right now.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so by the way, am I coming through okay? Is
Yeah,
like
you
as
look
per
great.
usual? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, sounds great.
Okay.
Looks
Thanks. Okay. All right, let's do it. Okay. How do I start? I forgot how I start the show after 500 some episodes. Well, I don't have. It's funny when I don't have all my things in front of me. My normal workstation is. It's very. I am a creature of habit, so
great. I get that. I get that.
Easily thrown off. Okay, so let's see. Welcome to Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I am your guide and host through the show, and today a return to Keeping It Real as our one of our favorite people that has been with us almost since the beginning of our show. Certainly he's been with us for many years, Chris Linsell, and we actually have a new title for Chris's episodes that he's going to be coming on regularly with us. Used to be called Closing Time. We came up with a different and kind of a more fun title, we both thought, which is called Unpopular Real Estate Opinions with Chris Linsell. And let me actually tell you more about Chris if you are new to the show. If you are a returning returning listener to our show, you probably already know this about Chris. But let me tell you more about him to everyone who is new. Chris Linsell is a real estate technology analyst and director of content at large. He specializes in new solutions to old questions, constantly exploring the cutting edge of technology in the real estate space. And Chris also has many years of experience as a licensed realtor in the state of Michigan and has worked as a marketer, a digital strategist, and a trainer for major national brands like Berkshire Hathaway Home Services of Michigan and Coldwell Banker Schmidt Realtors. Throughout his real estate career, Chris has been part of hundreds of transactions ranging from modest rural starter homes to multi-million-dollar waterside compounds. An accomplished musician, actor, and speaker, Chris has engaged with audiences sized ranging from 30 to 3,000. Most recently, Chris was just a featured speaker at the 2023 National Association of Realtors convention, which he just returned. Many of you listening may have already may have seen him speak there. But Chris, by the way, before Chris comes on, please follow Chris on LinkedIn. We'll have a link to his LinkedIn page. He writes great content there. And also, if you are looking for a sought-after speaker, either for a brokerage, maybe an association, or a conference, Chris would love to chat with you. He is constantly traveling across the country, speaking to lots of realtors. ChrisLinsell.com is where you can find his touring schedule and how to get in touch with him. Chris, welcome back to the show.
DJ, it's great to be back. We might have to work on cutting that intro down a little bit. I realize I gave you a lot of info, and most people, they don't care about that stuff. They just want to get to the meat inside the sandwich. So, thanks for having me back. It's really a pleasure to be chatting with you again. When I was, for anyone who doesn't know, DJ and I originally met when I was the senior writer for a website called The Close, and did a lot of content and professional development for real estate professionals through The Close, hence Closing Time, the former name of our segment. But now that I've moved on in the next chapter, beyond The Close, launching some new ideas here, unpopular opinions, perhaps. Man, I'm looking forward to digging into it today. It's good to be back chatting.
It's very exciting to have you back. Chris is very, very important person, I believe, currently in the real estate journalist space. Chris is very, very well informed on what's going on. From not just from a news perspective, but also from the perspective of a working agent. And you're also in direct communication with working agents, as of course you being a working agent yourself. So let's get right into it. There's a lot to go over. What's on your mind today?
Man, what's on my mind today? Well, there's a lot of stuff obviously happening in the real estate space right now. Um, I think I think it's important for real estate professionals right now to realize that we are we're currently, I don't know if you ever seen the video of this. We are currently standing on the beach watching the water get pulled away from the shore, like what happened in, I think it was in Thailand, when there was this earthquake, out in the ocean. Everybody standing on the beach was watching the water recede. Like there was waves that were getting pulled back, like the tide was going out, and everyone was like, "What the heck is going on? It's pretty quiet in here right now, but there's no water like we're used to." All of that water in this video is building to a giant wave that's going to come crash over the beach. And right now, I have this kind of gut feeling that real estate might be going through that scenario. We're all standing on the beach. It's relatively calm. It's not perfect, but we're not getting splashed right now. But pretty soon, we're going to face some challenges as an industry, challenges that we haven't faced in a long, long time, maybe ever. And it is time for real estate professionals to start thinking about this, because we're about to get wet, as the saying would go. But I'm here to talk about why we might get wet and to tell people where they can buy their surfboards, because just because the waves are coming doesn't mean that you can't be successful either.
Yeah, it's funny. I think that's a really apt metaphor, and it makes a lot of sense because it does feel very calm right now. Certainly, the waters are murky, and there's a lot that people are, at least the agents that I communicate with, are unhappy about, but not as unhappy maybe as they've been in previous years. But there
Mhm.
is obviously there's challenges with inventory and interest rates. I saw Jamie Dimon yesterday from Chase had basically said, yeah, recession's coming. So
Mhm.
that was depressing to see. That usually, I don't know, whatever Jamie Dimon says, I usually think is probably close to accurate. But he is not an economist either, so who knows? But he has a team of them working for him. But yeah, we
Mhm.
would love, let's talk about where that kinetic energy is building right now
Yeah.
out in the surf, and
Yeah.
when it's going to come crashing into us, and what we can do to
Sure.
sort of brace ourselves for it.
Yeah. Well, let me start by giving you an unpopular opinion, but not untrue, about the mortgage rates that you just mentioned. So
Mm,
it's true that we've seen volatility in the mortgage rate sector, significant volatility relative to what we're used to, right? Like it was not that long ago that the status quo for mortgage rates was in the threes, in the fours, 4% for residential loans felt high in recent memory. So to see rates where they are right now feels volatile. It feels like a shock, even for those of us who have seen rates higher than this. It's just been a long time since the rates have been that high. But let me kind of set us straight here. It's not popular for me to say this, but we are going to experience as an industry a significant set of disruption when our interest rates come down a little bit. And let me explain why.
hmm.
Right now, most people in most markets are experiencing what I would consider price stagnation relative to the interest rates. These high interest rates are not driving prices down. They're
Right.
just generally keeping them pretty much flat. This is because these high interest rates, which usually would drive prices down, are being buoyed by our lack of inventory, as you mentioned before, right? Like, even though interest rates are high, demand was so high that now that the interest rates have come up, we've just kind of hit that equilibrium, but not down here where we want it. It's up a little bit higher. This equilibrium is higher than most people are comfortable with. So imagine what would happen if, say, in 8, 12, 16 months, the interest rates drop 2 percentage points. And all of
Hmm.
a sudden, we are seeing mortgage rates in the 5%. Well, all of this pent up demand for home purchases is going to explode
Yeah.
onto the scene. And imagine what will happen when the buyer pool literally doubles in 2 weeks when interest rates snap down again. We are going to see prices pop, especially in on demand markets like major metros, tourist destinations, anywhere where there is water, especially fresh water. We are going to see prices pop by 30%, 50% even
Wow.
in the span of a quarter. It would not surprise me to see interest rates um, go down and prices pop by 20%,
And
25%,
this is a
30%.
competition thing we're talking about. Basically, we're talking about
100%.
competition.
100%, because you're going to have all of a sudden all of these buyers who had decided, I'm going to wait out the mortgage rates. I don't have to move right now, but I cannot surrender my 3% mortgage rate on my existing home. I can't surrender that for an 8%, but I might be able to stomach it for 5%. So
Sure.
all of those buyers are going to flood into the market, and all of a sudden we're going to see prices on homes skyrocket. And this is not going to be good for our markets in general. We are still trying to find this balance between supply and demand. So, an unpopular opinion, all of that to say, is the following: this is actually an amazing time to buy a home for buyers, because if you have the capital to be able to temporarily brace the existing payments thanks to the mortgage rates that are elevated, you have low competition and flat prices, which means your search process is relatively predictable. You could, if you bought a house right now, if those mortgage rates, like we're all predicting, pop down by 2% in the next 24 months, you can refinance that house, but you cannot refinance the price of the house. If you want to wait, if you cannot lock in today's price and then wait to buy it for 2 more years. You got to lock in at both places, but you can refinance that rate even though it's a little higher than you're used to. Now, not everybody has that opportunity. I recognize this. This is another reason this is an unpopular opinion. Not everybody has the opportunity to go in at the higher mortgage rate because capital is tight. I totally get that. So this isn't something that applies for everyone. But if you are working with buyers right now, it is time to start framing this situation as an opportunity, because genuinely, I hate to say it, I don't think it's going to get easier for buyers. In fact, I think it's going to get harder. And right now is the time that buyers agents should be counseling their clients to say, now is the time. If you want to strike on these sorts of things, it's time to be active in the market right now.
I agree. I think that I would love to see a calculator. By the way, if one of our listeners is so skilled in their in math to create this, but I would love to see, based on some of the assumptions you just mentioned, what that break even point is for when it doesn't make sense to purchase in a higher interest rate, low competition environment like now. Which because and then assuming that at some point in the next several years you may be able to refinance down to a lower rate if rates do in fact decrease, which we would hope they will. But you're right that the as the value or as the price as the interest rates come down, of course, competition will be increased. So I think you're right. This is I think a huge opportunity for agents to just explain to their buyers money is just more expensive right now. It's just a little bit
Yep.
more expensive. And here's the good news. The bad news is yes, it's going to cost you more to get a place currently as far as the if you're borrowing. But you have not only less competition, as Chris said, prices are relatively flat, and a less competition. And then, as interest rates, of course, increase, you're able to, or decrease, you're able to refinance, hopefully in the future. But you're basically going to get a better price today just based
Mhm.
on competition.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Now, I want to layer in another unpopular opinion that goes along with this one. We're talking about, I mean, it's easy to talk about the mechanics of our market, because we're all kind of watching. I mean, most MLSs, you can see what's closing, you can see when it's closing, you can understand the volume of your market, you can understand it relative to the historics. So most of us can see that stuff pretty evidently if we're looking for it. But let me add in a layer of kind of uh, unpopular opacity, if it will, something to kind of cloud things a little bit, which is the the added element of technology, specifically AI, in this conversation. I know it's unpopular to say this, but AI is coming for your job. And let me be more specific. You're not going to get replaced by AI, but you're going to get replaced by somebody who uses AI very soon. Like, I'm not kidding. In the next 36 months, this is going to be a real consideration for people. And let me tell you why I think that this is true. We have seen an unprecedented acceleration in terms of the path of AI. DJ, I don't know if you saw this or not. So if you did, I'm gonna give you a gimme here, and if you didn't, then we'll go from there. How long do you think we've been talking about Chat GPT? How long do you think this tool's been on the scene for us?
How long has it been on the scene? I don't
Like
know.
yeah. How long has it
Is
been
it
a
how
part
long
of the
has it been in the
conversation?
zeitgeist?
Yeah.
I'd say year, maybe year and a half.
It just ChatGPT became available to the public just barely a year from when we're recording this. It's been available to the public 1 year and 1 day from today. It feels like we've been talking about this for a long time because, I mean, a year's a long time, but we've also been really intensely talking about it. And one of the reasons we've been really intensely talking about it is because it has developed so fast. Think about where we were a year and a half ago. Nobody was even thinking
Yeah.
in the context of technology, how can I use AI to improve my real estate business? And now, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I have spoken to literally thousands of realtors over the last just 3 months about how AI will affect their real estate business. And let me tell you, things are not slowing down. Things are speeding up. It is very reasonable to believe that a year from right now, AI will be unrecognizably powerful relative to what it is right now. So, if you are thinking to yourself, this is a technology that will not affect me and my business, you are akin to the realtors who in the early 2000s thought, nah, there's just no way that a company like, what are they called? Zillow, there's no way a company like that could affect my real estate business. Of course, people are still going to want to come in my office and flip through the phone book that was the MLS then. If you are one of those people, you're fooling yourself. AI and somebody who's using it is coming for your job. And if you're not prepared for that, 3 years from now, you're going to be doing something else.
Yeah, I mean, it's even AI has even changed the way that I search the web, because now,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, I will. Well, I'm trying to think if this is a true statement for me. It's close enough to true. Most of the time, I will go to ChatGPT with my query before I'll go to Google. And
Mm.
that is only going to, and Google's developing their own. They have Bard, they have their own AI, but eventually, we are going to stop submitting even search queries the way that we're doing now. It's ChatGPT already has voice input, and that's going to continue to develop. And people are going to just start getting accustomed to talking to their devices and asking for information. I do it almost every day. The way I think about it is, I don't know if it goes back to the Odyssey, but this whole, or wherever, whatever mythology this is, but the Oracle at Delphi, this Greek mythology thing, I
Mhm.
have that now, or at least a version of that, and I
Mhm.
speak to it all the time. And I'm curious in how you think that may impact a realtor's job, because
Well,
you mentioned, yeah, like how,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, I mean, I'll start off by saying this is not an exaggeration. My children speak to, and I don't want to say it out loud, our smart speaker.
yep,
My children speak to our smart speaker literally daily, and they
yeah,
ask it the sort of things that would have taken me uh, a minute to get for them using the internet, and would have taken me at their age going to find somebody who just physically knew the information that I was asking. So my kids, this isn't a learned behavior. This is an organic behavior for them, and it is for anybody who grew up using this technology. And the emergence of artificial intelligence to pair with that sort of interface is going to, like I said, completely revolutionize the way that we think about information and execution of tasks. How will that affect real estate professionals? Well, there are two big things that I think we should consider. The first is, and I know, unpopular opinion here, but the first is if your value as a real estate professional is based on your access to tools or your ability to execute procedural things, you're screwed. I hate to say it, but this is going to change the way that we conduct real estate holistically. There will no longer be hours necessary for editing photos, for writing listing descriptions, for inputting and updating the MLS. There will no longer be hours necessary for sorting through and prioritizing communication on platforms like CRMs. There, frankly, will be no longer a need
right,
sooner than later to automate and even generate the sort of passive communication that just 2 years ago I was on the close trumpeting as an absolute necessity for building your real estate brand. Having email drips, creating the right social media content, making sure your website stays up to date. These used to be jobs that we did with our own fingers, with our own precious hours. This is going away. In fact, I would be willing to bet 30% of real estate hours in our job will be gone and dedicated to machines within, I mean, I want to say 24 months, but maybe more like 18 months, 16 months even. I mean, it's going to change the way that we think about this business. It is no longer going to be a to do list, it is going to be a list of important commitments. It's no longer, I have to do these 20 things to get my listing live. It is just two questions. How can I serve my clients? And what is in their best interest? Those are the things that you will be responsible for. Can you imagine a world where you don't have to post to Instagram or update the MLS or think about filling out the forms for your local board's license renewal? You don't have to do any of that stuff any longer. Great, but also terrifying for those of us, for those of you, frankly, who hang your hat on the ability to do that stuff because you're not going to have to do it anymore.
yeah. I sort of have a few thoughts about that. So what Chris is saying is absolutely right. It's going to be a wonderful thing for agents, in particular with MLS input, for listings, and just, photography. All of that's going to be much simpler, and it's going to just be automated. You talked about, email marketing and different sort of ways that agents are spending their man hours, working on responses to clients. A lot of that casual stuff, or operational stuff, will absolutely be automated. I'm curious, do you think commissions will be affected as a result of a lot of a realtor's operational tasks being, au- you know auto-generated
Mhm.
or automated to some degree, is that going to squeeze commissions? Because typically when I hear about efficiencies that are, technological efficiencies that are coming, I wonder how that's going to impact the public's view of a realtor's worth, and are they gonna wanna
Yeah.
continue to pay, 5 to 6% to sell their
Mhm.
home?
Yeah, I actually think it's gonna bifurcate commissions. And if my broker is listening, I apologize in advance for the argument I'm gonna start in the office in just a second. Um, I think that AI is going to affect commissions the following ways. It's going to make it's going to drive down the cost of somewhere in the neighborhood of 65 to 70% of real estate professionals. I
Wow,
bet you in 3 years, I bet you that most real estate professionals, 70% of them, will be operating in the realm of what discount brokers operate in right now. Flat fee, hourly, that sort of thing. I genuinely think because there's so many real estate professionals, frankly, who hang their hat on their ability to access the MLS and schedule showings. That sort of thing does not that is not a resume skill anymore.
right.
Um, so I bet you a whole chunk of those people are going to go down to the discount brokerage level. The other percentage, the other 15, 20, 25, maybe percent of commissions or of commissioned agents are going to get paid more. And
Interesting.
let me tell you why. Because right now, these agents are kind of in the mix with everybody else here. It's difficult to separate this wheat from the chaff, but AI is going to make it abundantly clear who has the skills necessary to really serve their clients and their clients' needs on a personal and dynamic and individual basis. It is going to be the difference between a dedicated, like, think about it this way: the agents who are going to be in this top performers. These are your personal physicians who know your health and wellness inside and out. They know every square inch of your medical record, and all the rest of these people are going to be WebMD. So you are going to have the opportunity to either have the most premium service available, or you're going to essentially have a self-service experience where somebody is just facilitating access to the platforms that you need. Now, what are the downstream effects of that? It could be, hate to say it, it could be a bifurcated experience for a lot of consumers, that only the rich get this premium hands-on experience, and all the rest of us get this self-service experience. But let me unlock this as an opportunity for anybody who is thinking about where they fall in here. There is an incredible opportunity for anybody who wants to provide that five-star service to those who don't think that they either deserve it or can afford it.
Yeah.
You have a chance to bridge that gap to become all of a sudden, like think about when luxury brands all of a sudden create a line of products that are accessible on multiple price levels but with the same level of service and integrity. It is a transformative moment for those businesses. They quadruple or sometimes 10x their business. You could do that. It's just a matter of understanding, how do I provide that level of service? How do I make it accessible to other people within the market? How do I make it so I am not just serving the elite of the elite? There's so much opportunity there.
How would you recommend somebody would start to think about providing or increasing the amount of service they provide? We talked about, you mentioned the sort of white glove service, this
Uh-huh.
five-star service.
Uh-huh.
How does an agent start to evaluate, am I providing that? And if not, what steps should I start to take to improve?
Well, I mean, I think honestly, this kind of dovetails very nicely with some of the conversations I've been having and other people have been having around the effect of these lawsuits that have recently been levied and have hit inflection points against the National Association of Realtors. If you're not in the loop on that, I don't know where you've been, but long story short, National Association of Realtors was found uh, uh, liable for promoting practices that were seen as uncompetitive or that were uncompetitive. That's what the verdict was. Essentially, that
It was
uh,
collusion, essentially,
yeah,
correct?
collusion, tied to the way that we pay buyers agents specifically, and just the commission structure in general, promoted by the National Association of
And,
Realtors.
and let me see if I understand, because I have a
Yeah.
very rudimentary understanding of
Uh huh.
why the system was set up the way it was, why it's a problem now. I guess that's maybe where we could start. So my understanding is that the way that this was set up for to encourage home ownership was to say, okay, we're gonna do a basically you pay it when you leave scenario, so that as a first time home buyer, which we want to encourage in this country, we're going to the buyer technically isn't going to shell out, write a check for the realtor's commission to their agent when they purchase a property. That is going to be paid technically by the seller, who is going to write that check to both agents, if there are two agents. And then when that home buyer goes to sell their property, they're then going to pay back into the system that they. So my understanding is it was a way to encourage or incentivize homeowners who didn't want to or weren't able to bring this commission to the table to close to buy a home, and then they're going to basically pay back into to it when they sell.
Yeah, that's certainly the kind of that's the National Association of Realtors explanation for sure. Not to say that you're puppeting that viewpoint, but that's definitely the argument that they used. I don't think that that's a perfect argument, nor do I even think it's really a fair characterization, frankly.
Agreed.
Um,
Yes, it's. But I would say that was the idea, right? That the National
yeah, yeah.
Association of Realtors will say is hey, and the challenge with that is it's not really how it works, because the way that commissions, yes, technically the seller is going to pay the commissions. However, it's all baked into the price anyway, so it really is being shared
Mhm.
by the buyer and the seller, regardless of who's actually writing the check.
Right, right. So thinking about this scenario, and we can go, into the lawsuits. In fact, maybe we have an entire episode where we just dig
Sure.
into lawsuits because I got a lot of unpopular opinions about both sides of this lawsuit. But as far as applies to kind of our, anyone who's listening to this, if you're in the real estate space and you want to think about how you can start preparing yourself to be on the correct side of that bifurcation of commissions, to make sure you're not relegated down to the hourly employee, essentially, who's just pushing buttons. Um, One of the things that you can do right now is to start thinking about not just um, not just your commissions and your lead database and the clients that you serve, not just thinking about these things as individual transactions, but about thinking about them as an overall building of your portfolio of expertise. And let me give you an example of what I mean here. It is rare that you have a successful attorney who has on his card something like John Q. Attorney, good at law, all of it. Like they don't just that's not the way that expertise is built. Same with your doctor, frankly. You do not have a doctor who's like John Q. MD, I know the whole body. And now, doctors they need to know the whole body, generally speaking. Lawyers need to know the whole law, generally speaking. But these are not the people you pay the big bucks to, nor are they, frankly, the people that you would go to if you have a very specific question about a very specific thing, lawyer, medical, or otherwise. You, as a real estate professional, should be thinking about this too. Each of the clients that you take right now should be a part of building this portfolio of expertise. such that you have a reason to say, I am John Q, Realtor, expert in blank. It is no longer acceptable to say, I am John Q, Realtor, expert in real estate. We're all experts in real estate. We all have a real estate license. You're an expert. I'm an expert. We're all experts, okay? Whether or not we actually have the definitional knowledge, that's a different story. But as far as the public goes, we're all experts. What you need to start thinking about is separating yourself and your expertise by building a portfolio of business that demonstrates what the heck you're actually good at.
Yeah.
And one way, a quick and easy way you can start doing this is when you take on new client conversations. Let's say you've got a lead who's interested in buying a house, maybe a person who's interested in selling a house. The first meeting that you have with them, this is going to feel so unnatural. I realize this is people are going to tell me I'm crazy for this, but you need to say something along the lines of, well, I'm interviewing you too. I haven't decided whether or not I'm taking you on as a client. I need to make sure that your needs make sense for me as well. To start thinking about every client as an opportunity to build your portfolio of expertise. And if you have potential clients that are not going to work towards building your portfolio of expertise, these might not be the right clients for you. And again, I recognize this is first world problems. If you are in a situation where the rent is due and you got to get a transaction closed, by all means, this is a place where you say, I'm going to prioritize this next month. But if you are not in an emergency situation like that, if you believe that your expertise, for instance, is in waterside condos, and somebody comes to you with a piece of vacant land out in the middle of the woods, this is not your client. This is
Yeah.
not going to help you build that portfolio.
I think you're right. Real estate agents seems to be we're a little bit behind on some of these other specialized
Yeah.
professions where you pass the bar, you get your law license, and then you are really specializing in some version of law.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there are general practice attorneys and there's general physicians, general practitioners, and they can do some basic things. And
Mm-hmm.
but what they will almost always do is refer out when it comes to something specialized. So I think you're right. I wouldn't go to an estate planning attorney if I had a civil matter that I wanted to get resolved, or a criminal
That's exactly
complaint,
right.
or I would go somewhere else. And I think the opportunity is for each agent to really start to think about, as you said, very bluntly, but I think elegantly at the same time, is what are we actually good at? Right? and,
Yeah,
and
for
not
sure.
not not the collective we, the individual I. What am I actually good at?
Mm-hmm.
What service can I provide, and how do I increase, not only how do I increase my knowledge of that service, but how do I start to rebrand, or just evolve my brand to
Mm-hmm.
really start to focus in 1 to 2 sort of specialties.
Yeah, 100%. And let me bring this analogy full circle. Those like just kind of general practice attorneys and general practice physicians, those people play an important role in their field. I'm not discounting that, but those folks are more akin to that bottom portion of real estate professionals that I was talking about.
Yeah.
They are hourly or flat fee. They are not going to do something specialized for you. They're not going to execute a specialized task. And that is okay. If that's the kind of real estate you want to practice, there's ways to be successful there too. You just have to ramp up your production. You got to be able to close. I mean, seriously, I think in 4 years, if you're on the lower side of that bifurcation, you're gonna have to close 100 transactions a year in order to make this a real career that you can scale and be successful in, relative to the like 11 that most people do right now. I mean, 10xing your business is not an easy feat. And we're not going to have 10x number of transactions in the country. So you're not just going to have to increase your business, you're going to have to take it from somebody else, which, not an easy task either. So all this to say, don't be a real estate professional who is just satisfied filling out the boxes on the MLS and just taking every opportunity that comes along, like and treating them all the same. This is your time right now. We are in relatively consequence free zone. We're on the beach. The wave has not come in on us yet. This is the time to be figuring it out, right? To be putting sandbags up around the beach house so that when the wave does come in, it's not going to wash you away. We have the time right now. If you're not doing it right now, I mean, I guess thanks for me and mine. We're going to be more prepared than you will be, but there's room for everybody here if we can all get on board for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now of what are some practical action steps agents could take. One, of course, is defining what
Hmm.
their actual value is for themselves. Really
Yeah.
to sit down on a piece of paper and say, why would I hire me? What is it that
Yep.
I can actually provide? And then how do I market that? Well, two things. How do I improve those skills or continue to evolve those skills? And how do I market that and really start to get people to associate these particular skills, not just I can help you buy, sell, rent, etc., but
Hmm.
I am particularly good at X.
Hmm.
And maybe you're right as you start thinking about if anything is outside of that. And it's tough to say right now to people to do this, to maybe turn away business when the market is not as not as active as any realtor would like
Hmm.
at this time. But maybe it does make sense to start to think about what might I turn away that doesn't necessarily fit into my skill set.
Hmm.
And where can I refer that and still get paid a referral commission, of course, just like
Yep.
attorneys do this. I don't know if physicians operate that same way, but certainly attorneys do. And,
Hmm.
it's just something to think about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one practical step you can do right now is, and let me be totally clear. I'm not suggesting that when I what my this strategy. I'm not suggesting that this strategy is exclusive, meaning this is the only thing that you should do. But one thing that you can do right now is get together a collection of your colleagues who all specialize in different things to essentially create a referral chain to be
Yeah.
able to say, I'm good at condos. You're good at vacant land. You're good at luxury. You're good at first time buyers. You're good at first time sellers. We need an opportunity to create these referral relationships such that we don't lose. It's not about losing business. It's about appropriately allocating the people who need a podiatrist to the podiatrist and the people who need an optometrist to the optometrist. It is not a matter of giving up business. It's a matter of getting it to the right places. And if you find yourself in a situation where you're like, oh, well, nobody's sending me referrals. No, I don't have anybody to service right now. It's an indicator that your niche is too small for your market. If you do not have anybody that you are good, if there's no clients for what you're really good at, you have a skill that nobody is utilizing that is not necessary for your market. And that's a clear sign that you need to either switch, expand, or team up with somebody. And this is the kind of the last thing that I would add in this situation is I think we are going to see the emergence in the next 3 years of um, a, I don't want to say a renew. Well, maybe I do. We're going to see an emergence, a renewed importance, emergence of real estate teams and how teams address the needs of their clients, both because it allows real estate professionals to work together to be able to offer that premium service in a way that they wouldn't necessarily be able to do individually. And we're also going to see these teams emerge as vehicles for stability, to be able to generate leads together, to be able to use technology tools together, to be able to share the burden of the business across multiple people. I mean, teams are a pretty popular model right now. It wouldn't surprise me if we see a dramatic increase in these what people are calling team ridges, like brokerages that just focus or function as big teams. I think that might be a thing pretty soon.
Yeah, it seems like it should be. And this idea of just subspecializing and merging, different practitioners together into a team, it's already happening. It's been happening for years. And
Mhm,
now with the additional sort of pressures of technology that are coming to sort of reduce the need for the general practitioner
mhm,
and increase the need for the subspecialist.
mhm,
I think you're right that teams are going to start having it's going to be a lot of yes on my team. This is the first time home buyer. Here's the condo person. Here's the renter or the rental agent, etc.
mhm,
Commercial agents and all of that. That's very interesting. I do see that coming because um, we're starting to see that even in our own brokerage. We're seeing a lot of people starting to team up just to offer a wider breadth of services,
mhm,
and they're basically their commissions are staying the same, but they're able to provide better service to their agents. So I think that's a lot. I think it's a great place to sort of stop for today because it's really a lot for our audience to think about, is really to start mapping out what does if I were to specialize in a couple of areas of real estate, what would that look like?
mhm,
And what would I need to adjust in my business right now to find more of that? How do I find more clients that are first time condo buyers in my market?
mhm,
Or and it could be also too, like, I work with young families. It doesn't necessarily have to be a specific type of transaction. It could be a specific type of individual or group of individuals that you enjoy
mhm,
working with, but
mhm,
creating some sort of specialty and really thinking about how do I penetrate that market through my expertise
mhm,
and through marketing. And I also think too, if you're not sure what you're best at, the best, because I think a lot of us, we may have either an inflated sense of self or a deflated sense of self, but it might not be always the most accurate sense of how the world perceives us. So if you aren't sure what your skills actually are, ask your clients. Ask
mm,
them, in a way, say, I'm trying to revamp my marketing. I would just love to know if you were to think about why you chose me, and
mhm,
what was it about your experience with me that that led you to have a happy experience. I
mhm,
think if you ask them for that, you will find out very quickly. You'll start to notice patterns in
mhm.
the way that people respond, and you can start to organize that into a thought of, okay, how do I specialize in these kind of skills, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And the long and the short of it is, um you can strip all of this conversation down to basically a single axiom, which is do something really well and do it for your clients. If you can do that, you're going to be okay. But I know it's easier said than done.
Reminds me about something Adam Carolla has been saying his whole life. He says, I never met a really, really skilled carpenter, because he comes from the carpentry world, who was ever out of business or was ever
Mm,
was ever lacking business. And he said,
mhm,
really good carpenters are rare. And as a
mhm,
result, they are in high demand and they are never at a loss for work. And
mhm,
that is something to consider as well, as you were saying about, if you have this specialty, but it isn't being uh, appreciated by your community, or you haven't maybe effectively marketed it, or maybe it's
mhm,
just not that useful to
mhm,
your community.
mhm,
This is where you can start to think about, if I specialize in something, yes, it's scary to then think maybe I'll turn away certain things, but maybe I'll attract a lot more of my audience who really just wants X, and I'm
mhm,
the person that provides X. And I think that's true. Like, if you're good at anything, you're unlikely to ever be really out of work, unless you have some particular skill that's just not valued in the workplace. But certainly for realtors, everyone's got to live somewhere. Almost
mhm,
93% of all homes, I believe this is accurate, all homes sold are sold through a realtor in the United States, something like that. So they're still utilizing realtors. So now it's time to think about, what can I specialize in, and how do I get so good at it that I'll never have to really worry about being out of work. It's kind of like become unfireable if you have a boss. And the way
mhm,
that they say that is provide so much incredible value. I mean, it's so simple, but it's hard to do. But if you provide so much value at your company, even if you get fired, you're going to get picked up by someone else who sees your value. So I think that's just a really great thing. It's time to increase skills, I guess, is what we're
Big
saying.
time. 100%. And you said it perfectly. Become unfireable. Guys, we are our own bosses in real estate. Become unfireable from your own business. That's the I love it. That's the best way to leave this, I think.
All right. Well, Chris, we are so happy to have you back, and Chris is going to be coming on regularly as he was before. Unpopular real estate opinions with Chris Linsell for all things Chris. To see his touring schedule, to learn more about what his current thoughts are. Go to his website, chrislinsell.com. You can also book him. If you work in particular, if you are volunteering at your local association or state association, or you're part of the national association, Chris has spoken to many associations all over the country. So consider him for your next speech. Or if you have a brokerage, he would be happy to speak with you about that as well. Also, follow him on LinkedIn, Chris Linsell. Just find him on LinkedIn. We'll have a link to both of those, his website and LinkedIn, on the show notes. Chris, welcome back. We are so happy to have you, and we will see everybody on the next episode.
Thanks, DJ. See you soon.